Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing an unhaul. I'm going to be getting rid of 40 books exactly because I really need to clear some space on my shelves. If you don't know already, I don't tend to keep books if I didn't love them and if I don't think I'm going to reread them. I don't really have much sentimental value in books that I gave 3 stars or less, and I don't see the point in having them take up precious space because here in the UK our houses are not that big and we just don't have the room for them. So yeah, I have 40 books here to show you. Some of them I don't really have much to say about, other ones I probably have a little bit more. So let's get started. I think I'm gonna go with just this one because it's closest to me. Luck of the Titanic by Stacey Lee. I actually really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 3.5 or 4 stars, but it's not my favourite and it's not one that I really want to reread. So this is about 2 siblings who are half Chinese and half British, and it's set on the Titanic, so obviously early 1900s. Racism was rife. Something I didn't know before going into this book was that America, the US, had put a ban on Chinese people going into the country, and I don't actually know why, so I'm gonna have to look that up because the book didn't really go into too much detail and I had hoped that it would. So I don't know why Chinese people weren't allowed into the US at this time, but they weren't. So the siblings were travelling on the Titanic and they were struggling to find a way to be let into the country when the ship eventually, hopefully, arrived. Obviously, things go a bit wrong. They don't necessarily need to worry about that. They need to worry about the fact that the ship had hit an iceberg and was flooding. Spoilers. So I did really enjoy this one. I would recommend it if you're into historical YA fiction. It was very well written and I'm looking forward to reading what this author comes out with next. I really like this one. Next we have an entire trilogy, and that is the Lies of Locke Lamora trilogy. It's technically a series because there are supposed to be 7 books in this series, but the author has only released 3 so far. These books do have some sentimental value to me because I read them with a bunch of friends back in my fandom days when I was first getting into BookTube and stuff. I did really like them at the time. I gave the Lies of Locke Lamora 5 stars, I think. Red Seas Under Red Skies got 4, and then Republic of Thieves got 3 because it's just not very good. And I did really like them. Unfortunately, I no longer am a fan of the author. I find him to be very rude and not a very nice person, in my opinion. Don't sue me. So yeah, I don't really want to hang on to these. I do have a special edition of just the first book, The Lies of Locke Lamora, that is signed, and I'm keeping that because I paid a lot of money for it. It's personalised to me. Yeah, I'm keeping that for now, but I don't really feel the need to keep these because I'm not going to reread them. If I carry on with the series, I'll probably get it from the library or get an ebook or something because yeah, I'm not going to reread these before the next book comes out, if it ever does come out. Then we have The Sanatorium, which again I really enjoyed. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I read it for Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good thriller set in Switzerland in the Alps. The snowy setting was fantastic and I would recommend this. It's the first in a thriller series which follows the same detective, and I'm currently in the middle of the 2nd book and I'm not loving it. I'm not hating it either, I'm just not in love, so it's not a series that I'm going to want to collect. So I'm giving this back to the charity shop where I found it. Private Label, this is an ARC edition. I don't really feel the need to keep this one. It's a YA contemporary book. The main characters are both Chinese or Chinese American. They meet and they're both going through some stuff as they do in YA. I thought it was a very good book. I gave it 4 stars, I think, or 3.5 stars. Really good, and I would recommend it. Oh, I just found a bookmark, so I need to keep that. Then we have Wool by Hugh Howey. This one I'm kind of on the fence about because I'm very tempted to keep it again for sentimental value, but I'm probably not going to reread it. I received this one from the publisher years and years ago and I really enjoyed it, and then I made my friends read it and they loved it as well, and we had a lot of discussions about it, which is why it holds some sentimental value to me. But I reread this recently with the view to reread the 2nd book and then finally read the last one, which I do own, and I don't think I'm going to reread it again after I finish this trilogy. At least I don't really feel the need to. I might hang on to it until I finish the trilogy in case it turns out to be an all-time favourite, but as it stands I don't really feel the need to hang on to this one. Then we have a few old school YA books which I'm going to do a video about at some point before Unhauling, but they are on my unhaul pile. The first one is Eve, which I spoke about recently in my July wrap-up. I gave this one 3 stars. It's YA dystopian. It was alright. Die For Me by Amy Plum, which I think I read in May or June. Again, I gave this one 3 stars. It was fine. Nothing particularly wrong with it, but nothing outstanding either. And Tempest by Julie Cross, which I also mentioned in my July wrap-up. I gave this one 4 stars last month, but when I read it the first time when I was a lot younger, I gave it 5. It's a very good sci-fi time travel story and I would recommend it. I don't think it's aged too badly, to be honest. It's just I've kind of outgrown it. So again, this is a trilogy that I need to reread the first 2 books, the first of which I've already done, and then finally finish it off and read the last book for the first time. As you can tell, my terrible track record for series has been going on for about 11 years. I'm also unhauling Bone Gap, which is a YA sort of magical mystery sort of thing. I found this one really boring, so I'm getting rid of it. Another thriller that I'm getting rid of is Shiver by Ali Reynolds. This one, the atmosphere was really good. Again, this is like a cold Alps setting, this time in the French Alps. What I didn't like about this one was that it focused too much on sports, and I don't tend to like books about sports, so I don't really want to keep this one. I don't want to reread it, and I can give this one back to the charity shop. I'm unhauling You Exist Too Much. This one is adult contemporary literary sort of fiction. I enjoyed it. It was a good read about a Palestinian American woman who is kind of finding her roots and struggling with her relationship with her mother. But I didn't find it to be anything outstanding. I'm not going to reread it, so I'm unhauling it. And then we have another series, which is actually very, very popular. It's an adult series, and that is the Lightbringer series. So I've got books 1, 2, 3 and 4 here. I didn't actually buy book 5, thank God, because I read The Black Prism, the first book, and I gave it 2 stars. This was so boring and so kind of, I guess it's of its time. It's like an older adult fantasy book, just as the genre was kind of going through a reboot a few years ago, I think. I really didn't like it. I didn't like any of the characters. I just did not care. And it's really annoying because a couple of months before, I had bought books 2, 3 and 4 as hard copies from the charity shop. I found them for, I think, £2 each. Yeah, and I was fully prepared to love the series because I'd heard so many good things about it, like about the magic system and all of that, and I just didn't like the first book. So I'm now getting rid of these again and giving them back to the charity shop. I'm unhauling The Last Namsara. This is a fantasy book that I think I need to recap for recaptains actually. It's about a main character who is a dragon slayer. So now that I'm talking about it, I kind of want to reread it because I remember really loving this one. I gave it 4 stars. But I didn't love the rest of the series. I think I've only read books 1 and 3 because they're sort of companion books that you don't really need to read in order. So I'm probably going to reread this one now that I'm talking about it and recap it for recaptains and then give it away because I don't really feel the need to keep it. I'm also giving away The Ex-Hex, which I did really enjoy. I gave this one, I think, 3.5 stars. It's an adult romance. It's Rachel Hawkins' first romance book, and again, this is the first book in a series of companions. I do need to recap this one as well, so I do need to hang on to it for a little bit so I can get the recap up before the second book comes out, but after that I will be giving it away. Bookish Life of Nina Hill, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is adult contemporary about a woman called Nina who works in a bookstore, and she discovers her family that she never knew, and she's getting to know them. She finds out that she has inherited a ton of money, and she's also sort of finding love and trying to save her bookstore. Good book, I really enjoyed it. Another one that I really enjoyed but don't want to keep is The River at Night. I spoke about this one in, I think, my July wrap up, or June, but I think July. It's an adventure survival thriller about a group of best friends who are adult women, and they go whitewater rafting, and then it all goes terribly wrong and they get stuck in the wilderness. So really enjoyed this one, but I didn't like the author's second book. Spoilers for my August wrap up, so I don't really want to keep this one. Then I have some books that I'm going to actually talk about in my recent DNFs video that's going to be going up in a few weeks, so I don't want to talk about these too much here, and also my memory card's probably going to run out of space soon, so I need to hurry up. So first of all, we have The End of the World Running Club. I found this one very boring and borderline offensive, so I'll talk about that in my video. The River, which has very similar vibes to this one. Didn't enjoy this one though, the writing style was not good. I Hunt Killers, I probably would have liked this more when I was younger. I'm not sure I gave this much of a chance, but I just can't be bothered, so I'm unhauling it. The Dark Divine, DNF this one quite quickly. I didn't like the writing style. I don't really want to read about werewolves right now. The Winds Are Not, I found the writing style quite pretentious, so didn't love it. The first 3 books in Rachel Kane's Weather Warden series, I didn't like the first one, which was Ill Winds. Didn't like the writing style, didn't like the characters, so I won't be carrying on. I found these years ago in the charity shop, and I definitely would have loved to have read them and loved them when I was back in my urban fantasy phase, but I didn't enjoy it, so I'm getting rid of these. Where the Forest Meets the Stars, I think I got most of the way through this one, but I didn't enjoy it. Can't remember anything about it. Girl in the Arena, I don't think I got very far in this one at all. The author didn't use speech marks around dialogue and just used hyphens instead, and that annoyed me a lot, so I DNF'd it. The rest of my DNFs are ones that, yeah, I don't really have much to say about. I have Parable, so I read about 50 pages of this one, couldn't get into it, so I'm getting rid of that. The Stranger Game, I read about 10 pages and realised the writing wasn't for me and I didn't really care. The White Tower, again, I read about 50 pages, didn't really care about it. Same with Meridian, which is an old school YA book. And same with Once a Witch, also an old school YA book. I think I actually have the sequel to this one on NetGalley, so I'm gonna have to write a review of some kind to explain why I don't want to read it. And then the last few books are ones that I read and either didn't enjoy or I'm just not going to reread, so I'll show you those. The first one is It Happened One Summer. I did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. I found the main character to be quite insufferable and I didn't like the romance. I thought he was boring. His name's Brendan and it shows. Yeah, didn't like it at all, so I won't be reading the sequel, although I probably need to recap this one for recaptains because it's quite popular. Ariadne, I gave this one 2 stars, I think. It's meant to be a Greek mythology retelling which takes a feminist turn, and instead it's kind of just about Ariadne being stuck on an island and giving birth to children. So didn't love this one at all. I don't want to read the author's next book, but I might do if the reviews make it sound good. But then again, people said really good things about this one and it's got a stunning cover and it turned out to be not very good at all, so I'm very disappointed. Shadow Hills, I gave this one 3 stars. It's another old school YA book that I'll talk about in my old school YA video. This is YA paranormal. It's kind of like a witchy small village vibes. And then the last one is one that I actually really enjoyed. I think I gave it 4 stars and it's The Push. This is an adult thriller and this one is kind of like a generational story. It's tackling different generations of women and how they handle or cope with motherhood and how they raise their children and also their relationships with their daughters. I actually found the concept to be very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it, but it's not one that I want to reread, so again, getting rid of this one. And that's it. That's all the 40 books that I'm going to be getting rid of, either sooner or later. I'm not really sure. It depends how quickly I can recap them. I do have a little recap book pile for this reason over there, so I'm going to add some of these books to that. But yeah, that's my unhaul. Let me know if you disagree with any of my feelings on these books. Let me know if you've also hated them, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!